Awesome. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this event. This event, How I Got Funded, is co-presented by WAFA and WAA. And I am your host, Alice Zhang. I'm the co-founder of WAFA. For the ones who don't know, WAFA stands for Wharton Alumni Founders and Founders Association. So WAFA is a nonprofit 501c3 organization with the mission to foster building the ecosystem for women founders and founders. And especially we have a focus with our affiliated school, UPenn and Wharton, of course. And briefly, WAA stands for Wharton Alumni Angels organization. It is an active angels group investing in deals around the globe. Per my understanding, they welcome members of both Penn Wharton affiliated members as well as non-affiliated members. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that in more detail. And with that being said, I'm very honored to have my co-host, John Brace here. John is the co-founder and president of WAA. And we're gonna co-host with Estella list of panelists today. John, you wanna say hi?
Absolutely, thanks Alice, and hi everyone. And looking forward to the event and hearing from the founders today that are here. I think they're usually the most interesting people to hear from, not the investors.
That's awesome. Thank you, John. And in addition, I would like also to introduce you to the rest of the panelists. Michael Arison. Michael is, hi, Michael.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, Michael is the co-founder and managing director of Red and Blue Ventures, which is a seed VC focusing on Penn Wharton community investment. Michael, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Michael. And then I'm honored to have the two founders of our startups here as the panelists. Marina Tarasova, she's the co-founder and COO of Panoma Health. You want to say hi, Marina?
Hi, Alice. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Thanks, Marina. And Byung-Soon Kim, he is the co-founder and CEO of Motion2AI, right? It was founded by WAA. It was one of the biggest deal WAA has done. Welcome, Byung-Soon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
Great. So in addition, we have Carol and Sophia here. They are from WAA and WAFA. They're going to facilitate the Q&A session as well as any logistics help. If you need, feel free to reach out to them. So that's pretty much the full crew of today's host. And with that being said, and before we kick off the official session, just quickly a few house cleaning items. So first, this is a webinar. If you do have a question, we have a Q&A session at the end of the seminar. So feel free to type your question in the Q&A box and we will address them in the order they come in. So don't wait until the last minute. If you have questions, feel free to type in any point during the discussion. And in terms of agenda, so we will kick off by a brief introduction of WAA and WAFA in terms of how those two channels can help founders to submit business plan and help the fundraising process. So John and we will have a brief walkthrough of the things we can help with founders in the fundraising process. And then right after that, we will jump into the panel discussion. So today we present two case studies in two pairs. So one pair is Byung-Soon and John. They will talk about how a deal was getting done through WAA. And then the other case study we're presenting today is Marina and Michael, and we will talk about how that deal, how Marina basically fundraised and got investment from Red and Blue Ventures. We will get a chance to have some behind the scene look and discussion about how a founder can go out seeking and seal the deal. I think that's all I have for the house cleaning things. Without further delay, let's kick off the session, right? And John, I would like to pass the floor to you first to talk about WAA.
Okay, thank you, Alice. So I'll put up some slides as we talked about, but I'm going to try not to bore everybody to death with them. And I'll quickly go through what Wharton Alumni Angels is all about and what we've become. And when I founded Wharton Alumni Angels in 2016, it actually was because I wanted to join Wharton Alumni Angels. I was getting into angel investing and I wanted to do it with alumni from the school, and found that there really wasn't anything that had the scope and breadth of what I was looking for. So I decided to found the club and worked with the school and several others who were interested in that to do so. And what we really wanted to do was not be what is just considered, say, an alumni angel network, which we wanted to really be considered a best-in-class angel investment network for, compared to any angel networks, and be a place for Penn alumni to have a really strong investing environment, to work together and be able to facilitate their angel investing globally, which was very important to me, very smoothly. So we always from the outset, we built the platform and built the club to be a global organization where angels from our group anywhere in the world can invest in companies anywhere else in the world and do so and feel comfortable doing those deals, knowing that the diligence was done right and that as an organization, we were making sure that all the T's were crossed and I's were dotted. So we've grown from that time 5 years ago from about 8 members to 450 members now globally in 22 countries. We have typically been investing about $2 million a year in around 12 companies. This year so far, we've actually invested $4.1 million. And our check sizes range from 50K to 1 million with a median of about 150. And that's where we are. We are structured also as a nonprofit, though we're a 501c6, a business association. We also have special purpose vehicles that we operate for facilitating investments for our members. One of them is a multi-class LLC, which holds mini investments. That's for the smaller deals. And then we have a Delaware Series LLC for investing in the larger deals. And we have a real strict cycle on our process. We repeat it every 6 weeks. We do deal screening. We're looking at probably something like 1,000 companies a year right now. So something on the order of maybe 70 a month, 70 or 80 a month. We invite 3 to 5 of those to pitch to our members. Then the ones that have sufficient interest, we go into due diligence, and then we have a deal close process. And then we have ongoing portfolio monitoring, and then get right back into the cycle and wash, rinse, repeat every 6 weeks. That's for our core screening committee and pitch events. Though as we've grown, we now have a dedicated cycle for the UK and Europe, another one for Brazil, and then we've now recently separated out life sciences and digital health into its own screening committee. So really grown a lot now with 4 screening committees and a lot of activity worldwide. And we also have our portfolio support program, and we'd like to show it to founders that we're more than just a check, and that we can provide support to them. We have a process that's more than just mentoring or advising. We actually built it after in the model of the Wharton Global Consulting Practicum that some of you may have done when you were in school. But instead of just mentoring or advising or doing office hours along the way, we sit down with the founders, and if they want to opt in, we'll do a needs assessment with them. And then based on those needs and predefined goals or milestones that they need to achieve to move their business forward, we'll go into our network and find them the expertise and expert help to support them. Those people will agree to achieve those milestones, and the company will agree to work with our consultant, our consulting team. And then it's time-based, and we say, okay, it's going to take 6 months. This is going to take 9 months. It's going to take 3 months, whatever it is, to to deliver these things or help the company drive those milestones. And then everybody buys into that timeline and pushes it forward. And we find that that is a model that holds everybody accountable and really gets things done better than simply mentoring or advising on an ad hoc basis. So there's a lot more to talk about. I could talk about Wharton Alumni Angels probably for the entire length of this this webinar if you let me. So I don't think Alice is going to let me do that. So feel free to reach out to me, john@whartonalumniangels.com. If you want to just join or see what we're all about, whartonalumniangels.com. And I'm happy to tell you all about what we're doing and the community and why I am still involved with it after founding it and looking for it to be a Wharton club that's around for many, many decades.
Thank you so much, John. All right. Thanks, John, for sharing. I remember when we started WAFA, actually, we have always been wanted to collaborate with WAA. It took some time, but I'm so happy that we have John here. And I so much look forward to partnering with WAA in the future to help our founders, especially Penn Wharton founders, to get funding.
Alice, sorry, can I ask a quick question actually of John? And
Go ahead.
John, thanks for sharing that overview. I'm just curious, and I don't know if others are as well, and I'm sure they could put questions in the chat, but it sounds like, is it a syndicate vehicle then, the fund?
That's correct. We syndicate our deals. Every investor makes their own decisions. So we're not a fund per se, but we syndicate through an SPV. So we find that its founders prefer to get one check than 20.
Yeah. And to be a member of the syndicate, I guess, can you just share a little bit more how that process works? Is there a minimum check requirement, or if anyone has an interest in being an angel?
Yeah, as an organization, our minimum check is 50,000. As a member, the individual check into the syndicate is 5. A typical check size is in the 15 to 20 range is probably the median check size from an individual.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Those are great questions. Well, next, I'm actually going to share a brief slide about WAFA and how WAFA can help founders to get funded. So I'm going to share. And right. So briefly, what does WAFA do? WAFA, I co-founded with my co-founder about 2 years ago, back in 2019. As of today, we are a community of more than 5K members. I would say roughly 40% of them are founders. Of course, majority of them are women founders, and about 20% of them investors, ranging from angels to family offices, as well as institutional VC funds. And then the remaining are, we call allies, which consist of, could be professionals working in big or small or startup companies, but have a passion for startup, especially have a passion for women startup or women investment. And our flagship program is really our events. Our events draw some of the biggest audiences over, I would say, over the years since we founded. For this year, up until now, we have ran 9 events with over 1.6K signups. Our events has always been very popular, very focused on helping founders and investors and curate them to meet with each other. So do tune into our events. And starting from 2021, this year, we're also rolling out a program profiling founders. We actually have a channel in Medium. So if you go onto Medium, you can find under WAFA, please follow and sign up for us. So far, we have profiled 12 founder profiles, and our readership percentage is very high, more than 50%. We also introduced a new program recently. It's called Wharton Women Connect. It's a 15-minute virtual coffee chat We ran it first time in September and we have more than 50 signups. So if you do want to broaden your collection, especially within the Payne Wharton circle, just watch out for the email and do sign up so you can get connected. We do manually curate the match of the meetup. And I know today's focus is about fundraising. So we do have a particular channel where you can submit your profile or a business plan, and we will work in the background to connect you with a portfolio of founders. So I think today we're presenting one use case. That's where WAFA facilitated the founder to meet with and also got funded by Red and Blue. We are actually, John, I very much look forward to talking to you about how WAFA can facilitate, for example, funding through WAA channel. We're also working actively with a number of founders, investors on the back end. We're trying to gather more investors. And so for startup founders, we welcome you to submit your business plan and profiles, and we will help you to meet with the right investors. This is the link. Carol or Sophia, if you can type in the chat box, this is the link where you can submit your profile and your business plan. So if you do submit, we will follow up with you in terms of introducing investors. I think that's about it. So that's a quick overview of WAFA. Again, we have a weekly newsletter. Do sign up. And also, if you want to reach out to any one of us, feel free to reach out to us as well. All right. Let's go into the panel discussion right away. I know you guys probably can't help wanting to talk to the founders and investors. John, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll maybe first kick it off by asking Byung-Soo and Marina to just say hi and introduce themselves briefly, and then I'll introduce how we became involved with Motion to AI at that point.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, so let me start. I'm Byung-Soo. Yeah, by the way, nice to meet you, everyone. So I will leave my email address later, so feel free to contact me whenever you want. So I'm founder, CEO of Motion to AI. So brief intro about Motion to AI. We are a deep tech startup working on logistics industry. Yeah, sounds exciting, right? We provide intelligent services for warehouse mobility, such as forklift, robot, utility cart, on top of our own technology, like IoT sensor and artificial intelligence for recognition and optimization. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much about it. Yeah, so why don't you introduce Marina?
Yeah, Marina, please.
Thanks, Byung-Soo. Hey, everyone. Nice to see you all here. So many people have an interest in this topic. I'm Marina Tarasova, Wharton MBA 2010. And I've had my career in the healthcare industry. I was also a healthcare management major at Wharton and worked across Fortune 500 companies, a little bit of management consulting and a startup. And while at the startup, I got really excited about building my own thing and didn't quite have the right idea for some time until I met my co-founder who had an experience with the healthcare industry through his friend and had the idea for building Paloma. Paloma Health is the first and only online virtual clinic to help patients with thyroid conditions. It's actually not a niche condition at all. Over 30 million people in America have thyroid conditions, most commonly an underactive thyroid. Overwhelmingly, it affects women. And the current standard of care is really suboptimal. In a survey of about 12,000 patients by the American Thyroid Association, patients rated the satisfaction with their care of 5 out of 10. So the opportunity to improve on this care is tremendous. And we've been doing that for the last 2 years. Also the timing has been amazing with the consumerization of healthcare. We were doing telehealth and at-home care since before COVID, and certainly COVID has accelerated some of the momentum for us as well. So it's been exciting. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about our journey.
Awesome. And before we jump into the 2 case studies, I would love Michael and John to give a little bit more detailed introduction of yourself. I know you have some wonderful things to say about yourself. You're both co-founders of the 2 organizations.
Michael, you're muted.
I'll mute. You're on mute, Michael.
I didn't think I did that. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here with you. I've looked through the participant list. There's a number of old friends on that list and a couple people that we funded. I'm Michael. I've been on this campus. Right now, we're just south of campus for 40 years doing entrepreneurial stuff. Had my first company when I was an undergrad student, working with one of my brilliant professors. It was an early computer software company in 1976. I was successful. We started a number of other companies while I was teaching at Wharton with really smart students of mine. And then after we sold another company I did with other faculty members in 2001, we set up a venture capital operation to invest in a more structured fashion. We had 3 mentor tech funds. That's the fund that funded Diapers.com and Jet and Warby Parker. Yay, Warby Parker.
Yay!
IPO
Congratulations.
yesterday, trading well. We're all happy about that. By the way, those are OG Warby Parkers. They're pretty old collector's items, I guess. And then 5 years ago, as LinkedIn is reminding me, and everyone please connect with me on LinkedIn. We established Red and Blue Ventures and moved down here the Innovation Center, which is full of life science companies, robotics companies, diagnostic companies, a lot of great stuff. Just giving a tour today. And in Red and Blue, we've invested in, I think we have 18 active companies, a dozen in Red and Blue 1, which is now coming on 5 years. Our first check in Burrow, which is doing phenomenally well, a modular furniture company. They should break Warby Parker's record of revenues 4 years out of school, fastest to 100 million of orders. And that's despite of tremendous supply chain issues this year. So hopefully there'll be a future IPO. No female founders there. However, the CFO we brought in to the company is a Wharton MBA, Kelly Hicks, and she's phenomenal, key member of the management team. Now, we look at only at companies that have strong Penn connections. The stronger, the better. Must be one of the founders. More than one of the founders is great. Marina's case, we got introduced to Marina through WAFA. We had a specific thing working with WAFA. If you want to talk to a venture fund, we talked to a number of great companies. We were introduced to Marina in February. She introduced us to her co-founder, who we really liked. And we're off to the races in terms of our process. We'll chat more about. How's that? Start.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. So happy. Happy for Warby Parker as well as Marina.
Yeah, my little friend here, he's happy too.
Cool. John, you want to talk a little bit more about how you founded WAA?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I talked about that a little bit already. You gave me an opportunity as one of the co-hosts that Michael didn't have in the beginning.
Right,
so,
you have an advantage.
yeah.
Actually, I didn't talk about how we got started at Red and Blue because we were supposed to. So when I went into the venture business, it wasn't my idea really to do a venture fund. I spoke with, after I sold my largest platform company, it was 2001 tech crash, 2000 tech crash, and then 9/11 had a big impact on the business. And I left after we'd sold it to a private equity firm, stayed for a year. That was a year too long. They knew nothing about running smaller businesses, even though they had a Wharton background. I'll leave it there. And I was chatting with some prominent alumni, former students of mine. I had 3,000 students, and number of them said to me, you know, you're really passionate and you're obviously fairly good about starting companies on campus with students and with faculty members. Why don't you do that in a more structured fashion? And they said, you know, you'll put in a good sized check, which self-funded as most entrepreneurs have to do. And, you know, and we'll put in a bigger check because we got a lot more money. So that's sort of how we got our core investments. And we had a $10 million prototype fund. And then Ed Rendell, prominent Penn alum, who was governor at the time, had a program that was perfect for us, new venture program, job creation. He heard about our fund. And they came in and they've now invested in us 5 times.
Wow.
So it was 10 million proof of concept fund. We did well with that fund. We had diapers.com, we had Yodel, which is the biggest undergraduate exit, I think still. And then we raised subsequent funds. And then when Penn was doing the Penn Innovation Center, we moved down here. Our funding comes mostly from the Penn community, people with strong connections to Penn, people whose names are on buildings and programs and sit on boards along with a number of, you know, my classmates and former students. So that's really, you know, how we got started.
That's awesome. Are you still accepting LPs?
We're actually, our most current fund technically closes today. So if you get your check in before midnight, I guess
Wow.
Eastern time.
Another
But, you know,
congratulations.
we're always talking to folks about investing. We also do special purpose vehicles, which John mentioned. We've done a number of those. We had one for diapers.com. We had one for Jet. Those turned out pretty well. We've got a couple right now in Burrow, which is doing great. In Neuroflow, they raised the Series C. That's doing great. And then Some Spider on online media property. We've actually just merged it into a larger company, hopefully taking that company public.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can
Joan,
I ask
go ahead.
just one quick question? Can I ask you, what's the ticket size for you to invest in your company?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah. First checks are usually 125 to 250. And then we will invest from our main fund alongside that and with special purpose vehicles. So we can easily go to 2.5 million in the company. I'll tell you, in the case of Burrow, we're closer to a $10 million number as they've been successful through an A, a B, and a C. There'll probably be a Series D too there, since that seems to be the way things go these days, and hopefully get to $1 billion valuation.
That's awesome. All right, John, do you still want to take the chance to talk about WAA? I know Syndicate is quite different from a traditional VC. You want to also, I know Marina asked a few questions. You want to expand a little bit more there?
Perhaps we can talk with our founders on the panel about how they worked with us and with John and how their rounds came together and how they looked at check size, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I'll call Marina first. Tell us how you found this and tell us a little bit about your experience in dealing with us. You're on mute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So it's, you know, the Wharton Network is a phenomenal thing. And somehow I got invited to a Wharton Women's Circle. So sorry, there's a lot of, I think, wonderful initiatives specifically right now for various underrepresented groups in the business world. And Carol, I don't even remember how I got invited to the circle, but I'm so glad I did. Carol's in my circle. There's some folks in the attendees. It's a group of 7 women. Honestly, to me, it's similar to if you've heard of a company called Chief and other companies where they curate a group of business folks, and we meet in periodic basis and we help each other in various ways. And the group's evolved in a really, really remarkable and interesting way. And at that time, I shared that the company was going out to fundraise at Paloma Health, and Caro's obviously, I'd not heard of WAFA then, but she had introduced me to WAFA through this Wharton Circle, and also introduced me to Red and Blue. Now, at that time, this was our second fundraise for Paloma. So we had raised our initial seed round, must have been a year and a half prior to that. I'm forgetting things when we exactly got introduced. It was February. So it was 2 years prior to that, we raised some money. So I hadn't heard of Red and Blue before. And we had been in touch with quite a bit of folks in the venture community. So huge value add for me there. And so we got introduced to Red and Blue, Michael and Brett and the team. And like Michael said, I mean, as far as process, it was, I would say, pretty traditional. We had a number of meetings. We shared our data room. They asked a ton of questions. One
thing that was non-traditional about your raise, because it was a first for us, meetings are all on Zoom now. So I know we did the first meeting. I couldn't make it because it was one of the WAFA deals.
That's right.
And we actively look for companies founded by females. 30% of our deal flow is, and 50% of our investments are. I had them record the Zoom because I explicitly remember watching the Zoom like the next morning, 5:30 a.m., on the Peloton. And it was great. And so the extent where, our team came back and said, do you need to schedule a call? I said, just go to the next step. That was a great call.
It was so funny that you say that, because I remember even more clearly, it was the height of the pandemic. So yes, all meetings on Zoom, very unusual that we didn't meet in person. That is so true. I was in my closet because that's where I had to take some of my meetings at that time, like many of us, I think. And we were being recorded. And I just remember thinking, like, there's no way that someone's going to watch this recording. Like literally I had that thought. So that's really funny that you actually did. And I'm so glad. So that I think is about the process we had,
sorry to interrupt. Michael, you said you watched the recording. It was great. Can you elaborate what exactly are the things that was great and jumped out?
I mean, they knew their stuff. I mean, we love, evaluating Penn, Wharton companies. Because Marina, when'd you graduate? Okay. Who are your professors? Who are your classmates? So we can get all that stuff out of the way, very quickly, although we will do due diligence on it, and I remember Rise, our fintech company, we were checking out Justin's classmates, and they're like, oh, he's the smartest guy on our learning team. We heard that a couple of times. So that was good. So credibility on the Wharton, Marina's experience with Capsule, and that whole story, and Capsule is itself a Penn company. So that had a lot of credibility coming in. Their co-founder's great. Came across extremely well on call.
Thanks. That's good feedback to know. We don't actually talk about that. So
I should go back and watch the recording. I still have it.
Yeah, and I think the rest of the process was pretty smooth, and if I can say about just sort of commentary on working with Red and Blue so far, it's amazing that you guys have such a strong Penn network. There's, and you always encourage us to tap it. I think it's good to be reminded. And I mean, you guys are very just incredibly helpful with connections. Your Rolodex is tremendous. And also I would say that you guys help us think through. So Red and Blue invests also in all sorts of industries. We have some other investors that are more traditional healthcare investors or more traditional consumer investors. And the fact that you guys are, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, like more generalist investors across different types of businesses. So I've seen early stage companies grow in all these different ways, I think gives you also enormous value, because you've given us some ideas and just yesterday connected us with another company in a potentially really powerful partnership that we actually hadn't considered before. I can just paint like a very quick example. So we're a healthcare company. One of your LPs is a company that helps activate, helps find consumers in supermarkets. And that is not a company or a channel that we had thought of before. But what's really powerful for us is that supermarkets have pharmacies. We are a doctor's office. It's a great place for our demographic to discover a company like Paloma that we hadn't thought of. So that's just one example of how you guys have provided a really great connection and really good thinking around what we do. And you also helped us change how we record our financials, which we just somehow missed. So thanks for that. I mean, just a lot of value across the board. So
Thank you.
yeah, look forward to
Yeah,
it.
we really try and add value to a portfolio. We tap into the Wharton network. I personally had a few thousand students, and we find that for the most part, that if a company needs to talk to a company, we find the Penn Wharton people there. Often through LinkedIn, but we have the Penn proprietary database as well, and they're usually very receptive to conversations and introductions. One of our companies is challenged a bit with a couple of the people they do business with. And, one of them, I go, who's the CEO? Oh, there's a new CEO. Well, he was Penn undergrad, Wharton MBA. He responded, right away. There's another company, not a Penn person, but it's a really big company. And there's an activist investor breathing down their neck who happened to have been my former student. So we're going to see if we can work some things out. We've used this in lawsuits for our companies too.
Oh, boy.
Who's the Penn person? How can we get connection and just settle this on business terms and not have everyone waste money on lawyers? So you all have that network available to you through LinkedIn, through the proprietary Penn database. Reach out and use it.
Awesome.
Well, you've got an email coming from us, Michael, with some connection requests tomorrow. So we'll hold it to some
And the
more.
one Marina was talking about, that's one of my friends who's one of LPs, and I actually know him because we sit next to each other at Penn basketball games.
That's right.
Awesome. So wow, that's a great start with the power of Penn Network. I do wanna present John and Byung-Soo as well. I know John, you wrote, or the syndicate wrote one of the biggest checks for Byung-Soo's business. So why don't you kick it start there for your deal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get started, and then we can see what Byung-Soo has to say about that. Hopefully all good things, but well, let's see. And so we met Motion Day-I and Byung-Soo last summer, and he was raising his seed round at that time. He'd raised a small pre-seed, and then now was raising a seed round. Had been just starting to get some traction when the pandemic hit, but he was pulling off I would say, call it a geographical pivot to take his business into places in the world where things were not as shut down, and he was able to keep things moving forward, which I think was very tenacious and a brilliant move. What he'd accomplished there, and I think that he positioned the business much better now in hindsight when he re-entered the U.S. market, probably stronger than his company would have been if the pandemic hadn't hit. So. It's one thing just to say a company survived the pandemic, but it's really impressive to see when a CEO steers them through that and makes them stronger than they would have been after, in any case. So that was impressive, though we didn't know that was going to happen when we wrote the check the first time. So that was a pleasure to see. We actually were introduced to Byung-Soo through a Wharton alum at the Google for Startups program, and which Byung-Soo was involved with at the time. And so there was an alumni connection there to that introduction. There wasn't, much there. Somebody asked a question about pre-revenue on the chat, and we do invest as the angels in pre-revenue companies, but we look for something else that's either special or unique or some other form of traction. And what really attracted me to what Byung-Soo was doing is just a unique and key insight into the world that also fits very well one of my personal investment thesis, and one that my partner and I use in our investing outside of the angel groups or outside of Wharton Alumni Angels. And that's what we call the 3 C's, but it's really related to companies that are deepening the relationship and interaction between people and their technology. And which we see somewhat as often an oversight in a lot of companies, or even maybe some companies see it as an annoyance that technology and humans have to have a relationship. But But Byung-Soo in the warehousing industry, which was of course, imploding under the weight of the pandemic and the ramp up of e-commerce and the supply chain problems, was starting a company to help optimize warehouses. And what was his unique insight was that, there's a lot of companies out there starting technology or building technology to automate and to build autonomous robots and do things and replace the humans as if it's going to happen tomorrow. A lot of the legacy technology out there in companies were based more HR tools and based around just sort of getting the most out of your employees and training them and monitoring their performance. But his insight is, hey, we're going to have this long tail of time when humans and robots are going to have to be working together in the warehouses. And if you want to optimize things, you need to optimize the whole system, not just optimize the robots and automation or optimize the people. You need to make them both work together in the best possible way. And so that's what he was building. And really nobody else was doing that. And then we went out and talked to experts in the industry and found out it was a huge pain point. It was even a huge pain point to make robots of different manufacturers talk to each other. And Byung-Soo had a solution for that. So he really set himself up to have a company that could take and optimize a warehouse as it is right now, and then help that warehouse automate and grow into the future. So I really saw what he was building was a way to help an entire industry that didn't know how to use innovation grow into the future in a way that mitigated risks and did it in a stepwise manner. And it really impressed me, even though he didn't have a lot of traction at that time. And then the end of the year came around, he started signing some long-term contracts, and they really have just gone from like 0 to 1, I think gone from 0 revenue at the beginning of this year to north of probably close to 500K ARR now. And probably going to hit better numbers than that by the end of the year. And then we're looking for a lot of good things to come, because he's really struck a chord with this industry. And I think it's been pretty impressive, considering he actually had no background in logistics before he started this company, which is the other impressive thing. So maybe sometimes it takes somebody from the outside to have those kinds of insights. But I'll let Byung-Soo talk a bit about what it was like with his journey with Wharton Alumni Angels. And then I would add that I mentioned my partner and I do deals outside of the Angels. We try to put together SPVs also, not a fund, but single deal SPVs for deals that get on the larger side. And so we actually ended up leading Byung-Soo's Series A through that SPV, and the Angels participated through that SPV as well. And so that was, and we syndicated and had some other LPs involved in that as well. So that it's turned into be a really nice relationship. I've enjoyed very, very much working with Motion AI, Byung-Soo and his entire team.
Yeah, thank you for the great intro. Yeah, it has been my pleasure as well. Yeah, so it's good. My thought and then my experience so far with Wharton Alumni Angel already kind of when John was presenting the overview about the Wharton WAA, there was a testimony from portfolio CEO. Yeah, that was from me. So yeah, that is like the short sentence about my feedback. Yeah, and yeah, things has been so special. So like it was like last year summer, and then it's already almost 1.5 years since we worked with WAA. And yeah, at that time it was seed stage, and as John mentioned, Mark was our advisor at Google Startup Campus, which is a Google's accelerator program. And he introduced Motion to AI to WAA and John. And since then, we worked together. So when I say special about the Wharton Alumni Angel, so initially my expectation is mostly about networking. So I was expecting, so WAA may introduce us to good potential customer, good connection. But there was a program John already highlighted, the portfolio support program. So this isn't not just a support, it's super well organized. So John just mentioned the Google's accelerating program only, but we are also part of the other very huge companies accelerator so far. Okay, so yeah, so some companies from the logistics industry, some from the startup industry, and the WAA program is special because they are fine tuning and they are tailoring this program to each of their portfolio company. So since our seed staging, like last summer, we've gone to the a monthly tutorial session. So each tutorial session was covering different topic. So one time it was about marketing, tailored for Motion AI. Second time, this is the go-to-market strategy, kind of another fine-tuned version for Motion AI. So over the several months, like over a year, so Motion AI and myself and the whole team could grow a lot because lots of advantage benefits from those programs. And on top of that, the even better thing is so we were always discussing what's coming next. So John also mentioned it wasn't easy for Motion AI to find out the right direction because it was pandemic, and myself and then our team, our background is more like an engineer. So for it's always not easy. So from industry people, not easy to understand technology. Same thing for technical people to understand the other side. But the steering the wheel, that wasn't easy. And then John and his team was very reliable, always discussing, yeah, here is the situation, here are some changes, what would be the next step we better to take. So as an advisor, yeah, so Wharton Angel Group has been a great support, finding out what's the good direction for the next. So in that way, we continued our conversation over the year. So usually many of the investors, they invest and then, yeah, they just promise good luck and then just let it go. But yeah, it wasn't for the Wharton alumni. So yeah, in that sense, I highly recommend working with WAA.
Thank you. That's such a great credential to each other. Thank you both. And so Michael, I want to have a follow-up. I know we started this the WAFA referral program or curation program with Red and Blue, right? So I want to ask you how this process goes. Obviously, we have a case, with Marina, which is great. So I want to ask you, do you have any suggestions how we could better, bring more founders like Marina to you, actually to both Michael and John, right?
Sure.
Also, a related question is how you guys tend to work together with other investors, because I know typically it's a portfolio of investors as well for the founder, and how the dynamics working, like who plays the lead investor and how investors coordinate with each other. I would like actually both Mike and John, maybe you want to share your take on both questions.
Okay, we got a couple of questions. Just keep this seminar is a great way to get us out in front of all these great companies. So keep doing more of that. Keep coming back to it. We got a fairly large number, I guess, about a year ago when we first put this out. So please send us more introductions. Always happy to chat with people if they're earlier on in their process. We've known John for a number of years. Sat with him in San Francisco. Do we have any current deals together?
No, we don't. We've touched on a few. Rise was one of them, and we passed on it.
Okay.
Well, maybe that was a mistake.
Yeah, that's their Series A. They do pretty well. It takes a while because they pivoted from a direct to consumer to more of a B2B, where they're providing the building block infrastructure for fintech as a service. So we have to keep up the dialogue as well. How do we work with other funds? We are often in the lead on a seed stage, although we may not write the largest check. So Burrow, they got checks. We gave them a check pre-Y Combinator, which is rare for us. We had met them in their first year, much like Warby, helped them their first summer also. We were actually able to write a check in Burrow which was great for everybody. And then we worked bringing in other investors, and when it came time, okay, finally it's time to announce the seed round. They said, we're announcing in TechCrunch tomorrow. Can we say you were the lead because you're sort of you weren't the biggest check, although we've given them multiple checks over time, but you sort of lead on the intellectual side and social capital in terms of making introductions and so on for us. But when we work with folks, like we're working with Marina right now and a couple other people whose name I see are watching, we will reach out to funds. We're working right now with a company, it's a faculty founded company, and they had a target list. It's like, hey, who do we know at these funds? And virtually all our connections are working Penn people. So we reached out to them. A number of them have responded very quickly, and they're already in advanced meeting, second meeting stages on their Series B. For working with a company, we have a VC that we really like, and I can think of one right now. We've already had Paloma chat with them. So as a friendly meeting, maybe even a first look, but they're not currently raising. So you have to continually work that network, keep it warm, keep it Penn. John?
Oh, well, I guess we're a little bit looser on the keep it Penn part.
Yeah, I mean, you're similar to Chestnut Street that has a number of nice investors.
Well, I wouldn't say we're that similar to Chestnut Street, but
okay.
I mean, we're actually probably even looser than them in that sense. I mean, we invest in companies.
They're pretty loose.
When we invest in companies, we don't really, we're agnostic in terms of the background, their school background of companies, but we were really focused on it being a community of Penn alumni investing together. We do have a handful of non-alumni who are investor members, just because the school is okay with it, and also they were good investors with us. They were doing deals along with us, and they invest regularly, and so we were happy to facilitate them. In terms of how we invest with other groups, we have a pretty good relationship with two angel networks that we have done several deals with, and then others where we've worked to try to do it. And I think probably most angel groups have had similar experiences, but what I've found is that it's really difficult with angel networks to invest together. It's hard enough to herd all the cats that you have to do within your own angel network, and then trying to coordinate 2 or 3 of them together is difficult. Now, it's not hard to write checks alongside each other. We've done that with other angel groups, and we share deal flow with a couple of formal networks of networks. One is the New York Area Alliance of Angels. We share deal flow with them, and we're part of that group. There's another network called InSync Angels, which covers a lot of the angel networks in the Northwest, United States. And we regularly share deal flow with them. Typically, it ends up being multiple checks that each group will write its own check into the company. But we do, as I mentioned, have a good relationship with 2 other angel networks. One is the Gindi Alumni Angels. Gindi is an engineering and infrastructure-oriented university in India. And their alumni here in the US have an angel network, and we have a really good relationship with them, and invested with them on multiple deals. And in those deals, we've gone in together, typically, where we'll go through the same SPV. And we just have that kind of relationship where we are comfortable letting one or the other group lead the due diligence and going in with whoever's SPV it might be that makes the most sense. And we don't have any ego about that it has to be our SPV or we don't do the deal type of thing. Just we want to get our members into the best possible deals. The other group that we have done some deals with is called Marvin's Angels. They're actually McKinsey alumni angels, but I guess they probably weren't allowed to use the McKinsey name outright. So I guess they had to use the first name. But we've done deals with them, and it's a similar kind of relationship that we have with Gindi. So those deals work out well, and a lot of times they're good because you're able to put together a bigger check. Sometimes you can get in, negotiate better terms, or get major investor rights when you do that. We also collaborate with a group in the Toronto area and one of the members there is also a member of Wharton Alumni Angels, and we did a deal with them in a company called Darwin AI, an explainable AI company that came out of Waterloo, University of Waterloo. Really interesting company, what they're doing and how they're using their technology. And so we did that deal together. That was as two separate checks because there was a Canadian side group of angels and then a syndicate of angels on the US side. And again, for some tax reasons and things, it just wasn't working out. But we try to be collaborative wherever we can with other groups. We've looked at several deals together with Brett and Michael. Just it hasn't worked out for one reason or another. But I'm sure that there's going to be one that comes sooner than later. And yeah, I mean, we try to be, as a group, we try to be diligent and do our homework and invest in the right companies. But, at the same time, I think a lot of our members are there to also enjoy the experience. So we try to be a fun organization as well and not take ourselves too seriously when it comes to our interactions with entrepreneurs and with ourselves. I mean, it's really kind of, I think, one thing that's important, and I just had a meeting this morning with it was a Wharton alum, one of the founders, and the CEO of the company. Then they were raising some capital, and they had they were asking me some pointed questions about how we operate because they'd had some bad experiences with angel groups, and we try not to be that angel group, I guess, as it is. And I guess any founder who's raised angel money or pitched to a lot of angel groups probably will have the same stories and know the stories that I'm talking about. So I won't go into them in detail because I'm not here to disparage angel groups in general. But I think founders have a reason to question angel groups or be wary of them sometimes because it's not always the optimal experience for them. And we try to provide a good experience for them and get to a fast no. Maybe we don't always get to the quickest yes, but we try to get to a fast no. We try to be communicative. Again, we can always be better. And we're never trying to solicit our portfolio companies or people who pitch to us for other things or sell them services or charge them for doing different things. And we try to structure stuff to make it as entrepreneur friendly as possible within reason. So that's kind of how we do deals and how we've worked with others. And I don't know if that answered all of your questions or not, Alice. Hopefully, if it didn't answer all of your questions, hopefully it provided some useful information.
Well, that's I'm sure I have so many questions you can't possibly answer all of them, but that's super helpful info. I'm sure I will follow up with you for more questions.
Yeah, and anybody who wants to follow up with me, I'll just say, and I think I put it on the chat and it was on my slide, but you can always email me at john@whartonalumniangels.com and I'll answer your questions if you have some.
Yeah, that's great. And we're right in the time where we're gonna kick off the Q&A. So I would say, so Carol is, I saw we have quite a few questions under the Q&A session. Carol will take over to administer the Q&A section. And before that, I would just like to ask Marina and Byung-Soo to share a quick fire, what's your takeaway that you would like to share with fellow founders? If possible, in a 1 or 2 sentences, and then after that, we'll kick off the Q&A session. Sounds good?
Sounds good. Byung-Soo, you want to go first? Here, go first.
Yeah, either one is fine.
All right. I maybe just some notes that I wrote down for founders. If this is your first time going out to raise, I think it's important to think about who you want at the table. I think I was a first time sort of person going out to fundraise. I wasn't familiar with the process. To me, it seemed that it would be much harder to get meetings with VCs than it actually is, because it's actually their job to take meetings with founders, generally speaking. So if you have a good story, you're going to get a lot of meetings. So it's actually up to you to figure out who you want to get meetings from and who you want to be at the table, because you'll actually find yourself getting yeses to meetings a lot more. And it's important to curate who that is. If you want someone to lead your round, you should start only by going out and asking folks that can actually lead around, or that only do, if you're raising a seed, don't approach, make sure you're doing your diligence and not approach funds that are later stage, for example, or not the right fit for other reasons. I would say think about an organized process that you want to do over ideally just several weeks, and have a deadline, and really just push the folks that you can to meet your deadline if that's possible. I mean, within reason. And I would say also strategically, if you can think about how much money you want to raise as well versus, less or more before and after, because once you raise a certain amount, there's, with certain funds, I would say an expectation that the next round will be a certain level of degrees higher than that, and you really have to show that. And it could, you don't want to raise too much necessarily up front. And there's some strategies there that you need to think through on the number side as well. So those are just some quick things that I wrote down that I think are helpful to think through if you hadn't done it before.
Awesome. Thank you, Marina. Byung-Soo, you want to share a little
Sure.
bit?
Yeah, Marina already went through all the good answer. So let me just highlight some tips or maybe some old school style for the really early stage founders. So as Marina already mentioned, doing those homework for the founder and finding out who are the investors, what they are looking for, what are the stages that's their main interest. Because studying all of that, and then understanding what kind of metric investors are looking for. There are so many materials on the YouTube, from the web. You can study beforehand. So doing those homework diligently, that's the big thing. I think, including myself, every founder should do very hard. And sometimes it's even unclear where to start. Then just meet many investors, and then meet many potential customers. Just move five times more than the experienced one. I think that's some old school way to make it.
I would maybe jump in there and just sort of reiterate or emphasize what Byung-Soo just said, and that first of all, it's not easy to get funded as an entrepreneur, and it can probably feel soul crushing maybe at times. I would say on the other side, it's not also easy for investors to raise money, and Michael could probably attest to that also as well. And so I think that raising money as an investor versus being an angel investor only, it helps you understand that entrepreneur's perspective if you haven't been an entrepreneur yourself, and then getting your messaging right and all the things that an entrepreneur has to go through is very helpful, I think, from the investor's point of view. But the other thing that Byung-Soo mentioned is doing your homework. And that's also, he mentioned talking to a lot of customers, knowing your market, knowing everything about it, being able to, answer any question anybody might have about the market and your customers and why you're going after it and what it's all about and what your view of the world is. And those things are really going to come out when you have conversations with investors. That you really know, and you are the expert in what you're doing. You have insights that nobody else is having right now. And if you know your customer base, you know your market, the size of that market, what part you're going after it, why you're going after that part of the market, and why it's underserved or why you're going to dislodge an incumbent. And if you really know what you're doing very, very well, very deeply in it, and you've done that homework, it's going to show when you talk to investors big time.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And Carol, I'm going to pass it to you to open the Q&A.
Yes, thank you. So I have start with two quick questions for John and Michael. Do you guys invest outside the US?
I'll answer the quick yes on that one. We do. And
Okay. For me, probably not. My prior company, I ran international operations. We know the complexity it adds. We've seen some, interesting deals with Wharton Penn, India, Mexico, recently Central America, one out of Germany. So we look at them, it's a higher bar for us to do it.
Okay, and my next question is, do you invest in hardware businesses?
We've specifically invested, a number of hardware companies. Hardware can be hard, but yes, we do hard work. I know John does also.
Yes, yeah, the answer is yes for us.
Okay, thank you. And then there's a question about on food products. How hard is it to get seeded, especially to a startup company?
There's a lot of money available for food products these days. A number of our investors have invested in things and have asked me about them. One of our LPs had a food delivery catering business at Wharton. He's probably just a little too early. He is an active LP in our fund. He looks at all of our food deals. And there's Amy Yang, I think, Better Bagel out of Wharton last year. Nice success story so far, with good tasting product and distribution.
And there's funds specifically for food, I believe, innovation, right?
Absolutely. We know several of them. A good friend from Wharton is a relatively recent alum or in a restaurant business. He's now in the venture group at Bimbo Bakeries, which is huge. And he's here in Philadelphia. They acquired Entenmann, a bunch of other brands. So he'll chat with anyone more than Penn doing a food deal.
Yeah, I think the answer for us is yes. We have looked at food companies. I think we're looking at one right now that's a dairy-free gelato company with an alum connection. I don't think that's closed yet. It's still in due diligence, but we look at them. I mean, I think for me personally, that's kind of typically a B2C play, which is not my sweet spot or wheelhouse. So it's not something that I would do alone without some others in the deal that knew that type of business better. But definitely as a network, we do look at food companies.
And we do love to try the products. I was one of the alpha and beta testers for Amy's products. They've gotten a lot better. And I know my partner Brett loves Frutero ice cream. That's gotten a lot of attention. Not all working. I was supposed to get the agave spirits. I kept judging them. They kept saying they would send us a bottle. I never got it. But I don't think they're pursuing it because I saw they took jobs on LinkedIn. So I'm happy to help.
Thank you. There's another question about how do you incorporate diversity perspectives and background in possible founders and other stakeholders? So I think, Michael, you spoke about 30% of your deal flow is, or like you try to invest.
How do we incorporate the diversity aspect?
Yeah.
Of our deal flow, and Tiffany, who's on the call under my name, who's our Venture for America fellow. She's been working on this with me. Although I hate to put labels on anybody, we do track them in our deal flow system. 30% of companies we saw last year had women founders, and about half the company we funded have women founders, and we have pretty broad diversity across all other metrics, both in our deal flow and in our portfolio. And a lot of that is a function of, I think Penn's doing a darn good job. If you look at their statistics, new class is more than 50%, female. So, you would expect that our deal flow would track the universities. John, you want to?
I think on the investor side of things, I don't think we're specifically looking at the metrics on a regular basis, but I do see our member base, and our member base is incredibly diverse in terms of both geographically and in terms of, we have a number of female investors, angels in the group, and people who are involved as volunteers and on our board. So, I think on our membership wise, we haven't been very explicit about trying. I think it's just happened organically, and maybe that speaks to the diversity of the Wharton alumni base. But on our leadership side, we have made efforts to have some diversity as much as we can. Sometimes it's just it's even harder sometimes with a volunteer organization. You have to go find the right candidates, and then you have to convince them to do it for free. So it's not for everybody, but I think we have a pretty good diverse leadership team as well, and also on our board. I have to say, on the companies we invest in, it's not something that we focused on. It has come up at our board meetings before. So I can't really say much about that. Other than that, we do, when I look at what we've invested in, we do have quite a few female founders, not always the CEO, but one of the co-founders, or certainly on the leadership team. That's quite frequent. We see that in the companies we invest in. On other metrics of diversity, it's not something that we measure on the companies we invest in.
Thank you.
We do have a pretty strong relationship with other venture funds who have specifically diversity mandates. I'll mention the SoftBank Opportunities Funds, which is a $100 million sub fund of the mothership. We have very strong connections through Penn at SoftBank also, but they have a $100 million fund specifically targeting diverse entrepreneurs. We had them look at some companies in our portfolio, and I've just made a couple introductions for people we know in the work and entrepreneurship community to have startups that might be a good fit for them.
Thank you. So the next question is maybe first for the founders, and then maybe also the investor can give their opinion. So what advice do you have for founders to secure a lead investor in a seed round when there are follow-on investors already interested?
I guess that's the secret sauce. I mean, it could happen that way, where you have follow-on investors and they said that they'll join as soon as you have a lead. Pretty common, I would say, from what I've seen. And then you just gotta really target funds that lead. Not all do, and I think sometimes you just have to do that diligence and really find a fund that you think would be a great fit with what you're doing and that can lead, and just go forth. I don't know that I have any more.
And
specific-
also, I mean, as I'm sure you realize, can be a bit of a delaying tactic. We're not ready to make a decision now, but if somebody else thinks it's a great idea and we can chat with them,
Yeah.
they can tell us why they think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it works both ways. Sometimes we chat with them and it's a small check for us. We didn't spend that much time on it. We met them at Wharton. We thought the funders were great. Versus people, we really love this sector. We made so much money in this space. This has attributes to remind us of this other successful deal. I mean, entrepreneurs always want answers like immediately. And we have lots of things. We see 400 companies a year. And we do 3, which is a ratio you should be at if you're a really good venture fund. So, we are definitely managing our pipeline, and, especially in areas that we don't have, deep domain expertise in. I'd like to see someone that has more expertise. We are a generalist fund because we invest in the best opportunities out of Penn, except things that require FDA approval because we learned our lesson. You go inside the human body. Well, you go in the human body, Marina, but your stuff's already FDA approved.
Right.
Don't
want to be part of that.
Maybe one thing I'd throw out there then also to anybody who's an entrepreneur and raising capital, and especially if you haven't done it before and you might be going through some heartache, is most of the time when you get a no from an investor, it really has nothing to do with you or your company. It has something to do with what's going on with the investor. Either maybe they've already invested out what they want to invest, they don't have any more allocation, or there's something about the thesis that doesn't fit, or just maybe you're just talking to the wrong partner, the wrong associate that day, and you could try another route in. But there's a huge amount of reasons why you're going to get a no that have nothing to do with you and what you're doing. And so just keep going until you find the investor that you're a right fit for, and they're a right fit.
Sometimes it is the founder, though. I can think of a couple of calls, and they were not Penn people. They were brought to us by 10 people on the team. Probably wouldn't do it anyway. It was 10 person wasn't full time, or they were too junior, but mainly because they wouldn't answer, weren't listening, wouldn't answer my questions.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the majority time, no, it probably isn't. But I mean, I'm not going to say that there's never a time when it's
Right. We're trying to keep things lively. It's 4:00.
Would you guys, I mean, one of the tenets that I've heard is, when you hear a no, you can be sure that it's a no, but you can't really be sure why. Sometimes investors will say, well, we're not too experienced in this space, or we just don't have the bandwidth or the whatever. But like, how typical would you say you actually know, or you as an investor communicate the actual reason why you're passing?
We try when we have, very specific thoughts, and we're trying to do a better job of that. We've got a whole bunch of companies in our CRM system that we monitor, and many of these have come back. Raj, we mentioned Justin. We had met with him early on, and it actually came back around to us 2 ways. He was out raising a little bit more money. Somebody mentioned it to us, and my friend Gail Ball, I think, is on the call. Just at the time, recommended we take a look at him. We had talked to him. We re-engaged with him. We ended up funding him at that point, and he just announced his Series A yesterday. I think. Congratulations.
Well, that's awesome. Just don't take no as a no, I guess.
We have entrepreneurs like that. And so there's like, no, this is really enough. Because we have entrepreneurs, like to see us. We sort of on a natural cycle because we often meet people while they're on campus. We continue to have those dialogues, and you often have, okay, you're graduating, you're doing this for real. When are you raising money? What's the timing on that? Sometimes we want to give them the money earlier. We want to give Warby Parker money, earlier. It was, 6 months after graduation. Remember my partner chasing him around Huntsman Hall, like they were presenting. But, oh, you're actually going to raise money now.